This is a fairly interesting game here, guys. This is Seattle Seahawks and the New Orleans Saints sitting 5.5. So we're in a dead zone. 46 is the total. Steven, this did hit 6 very shortly, and then people took the 6 on Seattle. It's gone back to this dead number of 5.5. I get it because the Saints are a step up in competition for Seattle. We've seen Seattle be able to move the ball on bad teams. So that's kind of been the MO for this squad. I know that we made jumped up and down about Geno Smith, and don't get me wrong, he has been good. But their success has come against bad teams. They've not had success against good teams. My only problem is I don't know if we know if the Saints are good or bad or somewhere in between. And so that's why I can't get there. If anything, if this got back to 6, it would have to be a play on Seattle for me if I was going there. But I can't get there at that dead number at 5.5. And so it's a wait and see for me.
I think my opinion of the Saints at this point is, they're like a bubble team that maybe they'll have a shot based on schedule to get the 7 seed. So just very mediocre, very middle of the pack. Mm-hmm. So, to your point with Seattle, 71 points combined against the Falcons and the Lions. So who cares, right? I mean, anybody's going to score on those two defenses. They played Denver and San Francisco. They had 17 total offensive points. New Orleans defense is good. They're not that good. They're not Denver, San Francisco good. So, and I also don't trust the New Orleans offense to cover a touchdown basically here. We're at 5.5. Mm-hmm. So no play for me in this one, more just to sit back and observe and see if this Seattle offense can keep the momentum up against a much better defense. I'm very curious about this. We thought we were going to be fading Seattle for most of this season, and maybe we still will against this top half of teams in the NFL. But I'm starting to get a little more optimistic here, man. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to think that we had this all wrong about Seattle last year, where Pete Carroll was burying his head in the sand and running more than he should be, and Russell Wilson was. Our opinion was that he was a product of the system and being put into tough passing situations, and that's why his metrics were low. Well, the evidence is showing to the contrary this year so far. Russell Wilson has looked like the same, if not worse, quarterback he was in Seattle. And Pete Carroll has showed a willingness to open up and pass more than we thought he would. So I think Seattle is a very interesting team moving forward that we need to consider changing our prior opinion on.
So it does look like we're going to get Andy Dalton again, Adam. It does look like they're going to be without Michael Thomas. Both of Jameis and Michael Thomas not practicing, so typically that means they're not going to be able to go. I don't know if that really changes your opinion, because at this point, to me, a Andy Dalton at full health comparatively to a Jameis Winston with a broken back, it's kind of a push for me, in all of this. And so I kind of just view this team as what we've seen basically the last couple of weeks, was just a very bland, mediocre type offense. And yeah, the defense might be better than what Seattle's beat up on so far, but look, they don't blitz. They don't get any real pressure on the quarterback. So Geno's going to have time to try and hit DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and all that. Like, I don't know. For me, despite the fact Seattle's defensive woes, I think it would be Seattle or pass for me, but I would need to get to the 6 here and try to get on at least a semi-key number.
No, this game's an entire pass for me. And if you, as a Saints fan, are saying you have no idea who New Orleans is, like, you're the one who watches this team closer than most. I don't really have any sense of who they are. Again, there's another team like Cleveland where I thought a defense could carry them through mediocre quarterback play for a length of time, and hasn't really happened to this point. No, to answer your question, my valuation doesn't change based on a banged up Jameis versus a healthy Andy Dalton. I think we get a little bit too quick to move teams' numbers based on quarterbacks alone. Yes, I get the difference between, say, Daniel Jones and Davis Webb is a point or two, but this isn't really worth a whole lot to me. So no, I don't have any interest in this game. I don't have any play in this game. I think Seattle's offense is fraudulent for what we've seen against some very, very bad defenses. But I guess I'm saying fraudulent as opposed to a good offense, as opposed to fraudulent for an average offense, which maybe they can be.
Yeah. Steven, I think the one last point here in all this is, like, as bad as Seattle's defense has been, the question you do have to ask yourself before you want to come in and back the Saints is this offense good enough to take advantage of how bad this defense is? Because Andy Dalton doesn't push the ball down the field, so he's not going to be able to throw deep balls and make explosive plays. Alvin Kamara maybe plays, but if he does, he's obviously going to be not 100%. There's going to be no Michael Thomas. So it does make you wonder that even with as bad as Seattle has been on the defensive side of the ball, is New Orleans offense even good enough to exploit that?
For sure. This is a situation where it's ripe for us to sit and observe the early play of these two teams, maybe get a +7, +7.5 on Seattle live if we're confident that they're able to move the ball against this defense. But there's no reason. There's nothing saying we have to back them before the game starts with today's technology. And we have every opportunity to watch and observe and see how the early game is playing out here. If New Orleans gets an early score, but Seattle is still moving the ball fairly well, we might very well get 7 or more on the live line here.